controlling larger and larger chunks of wealth. Then came the Industrial Revolution, where in the Western world, machinery, technology, advanced science came, where you could quickly generate wealth in small places like the UK and France and the British Empire and America. And now the world started changing in who was the most wealthy. Historically, who was the wealthiest? The Nubians in Africa, the pharaohs in Egypt, the Indians, the Persians, the Islamic world, the wealthiest. But now who's the wealthiest? England, France, Germany, America, Canada, South Africa, New Zealand. Why? Because they contain the wealth now. The system has changed. And now a minority have majority wealth. This is the worldview of the capitalists. Communists say what? The world is what? Worker against master. Capitalist, the world is what? It's all about the trade of money and wealth. The postmodernists disagree with both of these. They say, if you're a communist, why did the Soviet Union fall? Why? You had an opportunity to build this whole world where the workers are in charge. Why did it fall apart? No, we can't believe this anymore. As for capitalism, no matter how much wealth you get, why are people not happy anymore? Why is there still war? Why is there still conflict? All of that money and wealth, did it actually make us better people or not? So they would decide with God. The issue was, the postmodernists did not give any alternative to these two worldviews. It's a very important point, I hope you guys are with me. They didn't give an alternative. They didn't say, oh, we have a better worldview. No, they said, there's no such thing as historical truth. You see how far they went? They were so unhappy and dissatisfied with these worldviews, there was none. In the 1960s, among all of the ulama, a great alim stood by the name of Shaheed Muhammad Baqir As-Sadr. We'll salawat for his soul, inshallah. Lives where? In Iraq. Shaheed As-Sadr produces a number of books and works showing how two things. Number one, communism is false, which was a big threat to the Muslim world at that time. Capitalism is not enough to explain our purpose, but there is a third way which explains how we live the way we live, and that is the Islam of the Quran and Ahl al-Bayt. Shaheed As-Sadr explains in a number of books, some our philosophy, our economics, and more books and articles, how Islam gives you a third option, which explains to you how the world was built, why the world is how it is, and how the world is going to go in the future. And through his ideas and the reading that I have done, we have a third way of understanding the history of the world, the history of Islam and the prophets and the Quran and the Ahl al-Bayt. And these come together in the modern world to explain to you how you should live and how life should continue. We are told as Muslims, we have to ponder on history to find out why the world is how it is. There's a reason for this world, and each of us have to look for it. I can't rely on you, you can't rely on me. We all have to seek it. The Quran says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. The verse says, قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Everyone go and look in the earth, travel the earth. 3 times this comes up in the Quran. Number 1, in Surah Ankabut. فَلْيَنْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ بَدَأَ الْخَلْقِ. How did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala create on this world? ثُمَّ اللَّهُ يَنْشَأَ أَنْشَأْتُهُ الْآخِرَةِ. And how will He bring akhirah from khalq? All insan must go through this world and seek the creation, the origin and the future. We read it again. قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Where is Surah Rum, where the verse says, ثُمَّ أَنْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ مِنْ قَبْلُ. Observe, ask yourself, how did those who lived before you come to their end? Quran says this. See the earth, see these pyramids which are now destroyed, see these Roman ruins around you, see these ancient civilizations, why have they all fallen? What was the reason for them falling? And the verse continues about this. كَانَ أَكْثَرُهُمْ. Most of them that came before you were mushrikeen. They were those who disbelieved in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This comes up for a third time in the Quran. قُلْ سِيرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ فَلْيَنْظُرُوا كَيْفَ كَانَ عَاقِبَةُ الْمُكَذِّبِينَ. Observe this, ask yourself, what was the ending of all those people who lied about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Where are they now? Where is Fir'aun and Nimrod? Where are they? In Imam Ali's final khutbah, before he dies, Imam Ali alayhi salam's last khutbah, he says this. He says, أَيْنَ الْفِرْعَوْنَ وَابْنُ الْفَرَائِنِ. Where is Fir'aun and his children? Where are they now in this world? None of them remain. There is only bones and rubble for those civilizations. Imam Ali is the same one who says, I am the one, he says this, I have pondered over all those who lived before me. It's as if I have walked in their steps and I know how they lived. Ali says this. And through learning about them, I can explain to you the features of this word. The history of Islam is so rich and so beautiful, but there is a pattern here. There is a story here. And now I'd like to go through what is Islam's grand narrative from the beginning until the end. Where do you fit in? Where does your family fit in? Where does your Imam fit in? Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. مَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Here we start with this verse. We have not created insan or jinn except to worship us. That's why we've been created in the first place. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created insan and sent Adam to this earth for this one reason: worship us. And at some point we'll be asked, how did you worship me? For the Quran said in Surah verse 28, وَتَرَى كُلُّ أُمَّةٍ جَاثِيَةٍ. Every ummah will be shown kneeling. وَكُلِّ أُمَّةٍ تُدْعَى إِلَى كِتَابِهَا. And every ummah will be raised by its book, and you will be asked, how much did you worship Allah on this earth? So basically, we've got beginning and end. Beginning, I've made you. Wait, hang on, beginning is here for you. Sorry, I'll come this time. Beginning, I've created you to worship me. Ending, I ask you how much you worship me. That's the beginning and end. But what comes in between? What explains how I get from my purpose to my hisab? The following verse of the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رُسُولًا. We have sent every ummah prophets. Every ummah. Whether they are stranded on an island or living in the middle of a landmass. Every ummah has a prophet. Okay. And all of them did one thing or two things. Inna Allah wajtanabatu at-taghut. They said to the people, number one, worship Allah. And don't go near Taghut. Every ummah was told the same thing. Every prophet. There's one story happening. فَمِنْهُمْ, and some of them, مَنْ حَدَى Allah. Some of them followed Allah by their prophets. فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ حَقَّتْ عَلَيْهِ الضَّلَالَةِ. And others didn't. All civilizations are in this category. Either they followed their prophet or they didn't follow their prophets. Some had Allah, some were not. This explains how every ummah exists. Somewhere between haqq and batil. And a prophet has been sent to awaken in them haqq and batil. And someone might ask me a question. What if there's someone who was not sent a prophet? What if they didn't get a prophet? Or they lived away from the prophet? Or they didn't see their prophet? What about them? We have a narration from one of Imams where he says, all insan are guided by two prophets. One is the Nabi who comes towards them. One is the prophet in their aqls. If they don't see the one who comes towards them, their aql guides them towards right and wrong. All insan have been given guidance to go back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fitratan. Now they can choose or not to, but here's the most important point. Either we choose to follow Allah or not, our choices determine our whole history. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inna Allahu la yughayyiru ma biqawmihim hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. Allah will not change your qawm until you change what's in yourself. We ask ourselves, why? Why are we in such disunity? Why is my community like this? Why am I in so much difference? Why is Allah not caring for us? No. The verse says, Allah will not change your qawm until you change yourself. We had it upon ourselves to follow the prophets, one after another, taking us towards God. And every civilization from Adam until Hisab is in this category. We sent you a prophet, we sent you aql, we sent you reason, and we asked you, will you follow Allah or will you follow Taghut? And we choose who we follow. Ayatollah Shaykh Mutahari says that some civilizations answer this call in history. Think of Egyptians, Romans, Greek, Nubians. Think of all of them. Some answer and some don't. And there are 4 factors which will end a civilization from answering the call of Islam. 4 factors. Each of the 4 factors we can see in history. Number 1, he says, in history, some civilizations don't follow Allah or Islam because they are filled with injustice. And there is no one there to answer injustice, and that leads to tyranny. Look at Fir'aun. Fir'aun, in his community, is a tyrant, he's a dictator. And that kind of qawm simply can't run past a certain sell by day. How long can people live under subjugation of a tyrant? There's a limited time. Every Fir'aun must come to an end. When you lead with tyranny and taking away freedom, you must come to an end. That's why Saddam ended, that's why Fir'aun, that's why Hitler ended. Each of them comes to an end. The one who lives by tyranny ends by tyranny. Okay, number two, why do some aqwam, some qawms end? Why do they fall? Number two is because among that community, there is disunity. And if within one qawm, there are multiple groups fighting one another, that qawm cannot survive. Because it's internally destroyed, it has no unity inside. So it will fall apart. Think how Soviet Union. At one point, as great as you think America was, the Soviet Union was at least as great as that thing. But because there were so many internal states within it, each of them disagreeing and having different philosophies, it fell apart. Think of every empire you have seen. Think of the Ottoman Empire. These great land masses with wealth and money in amazing civilizations. But because there's no unity, the biggest of kingdoms can come to the fall. That's why today, all around the world, there are ruins of the Romans. Because when Rome transitioned into Constantinople, it was not ready to have such a large landmass with so many ideas. There was not one central authority, so it fell apart. The third reason why some communities do not respond to Islam or to truth is because there is no longer Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar. This I'll discuss more tomorrow when we look at society and how society is one. If a community has right and wrong, but there is no one left to enforce right and wrong, it will fall apart. Because what's its identity? It has nothing determining anymore. It does not discourage from bad, it does not encourage towards good. So why would it remain with a single identity? That's why there are so many countries that once existed which don't exist anymore today. Because they allowed other ideas to come and they were destroyed. So number one, if there's tyranny, that qawm must come to an end. Number two, if there is disunity, that qawm will come to an end, like what Tahri says. Number three, if in that qawm there is no amr and nahi, it will come. Number four, if that qawm has moral indecency, no akhlaq, no morality, shamefulness, it will come to an end. Al-Tahri gives an example of each of them, but not this one in the book that I read. And now I'll give an example. In a world of postmodernism, when there's no such thing as truth anymore, no one is stopping one from becoming more shameful than the other. And in that world, that qawm cannot continue or run until the end. And so, kind of summarizing this point before I move on, there is one narrative in history. Allah creates us for worship. And He'll ask us, how much did you worship? And in between He'll send Anbiya and Kitab and our Aql to guide us back towards that worship. And each prophet gives us advice and guidance. And many prophets were killed for this reason. And whether or not they respond is whether or not they evade these four pitfalls. Now you can ask, how do Ahl al-Bayt fit into Allah's plan for humanity? Ali Muhammad, the Holy Prophet, his family, his awlad, the Aimah, how do they fit into this whole plan? We have a narration from the Holy Prophet where he says, before Adam was created, 14,000 years ago, there was just me and Ali bin Abi Talib worshipping Allah. Before Adam, there was no creation of Insani except Adam. He hadn't even existed yet, but there was me and Ali. And we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. The next time we see these two names is when they are born on this earth. More than 14, 15, more than 20 to 25,000 years ago, they're born on this earth. What happens in between them worshipping Adam at his arsh 14,000 years before Adam and them being born in Arabia? What happens in between? The narrations tell us, when Allah creates Adam, he was not worthy of sajda. And then Allah gave him inside his body the nur of Muhammad and Ali. The moment this nur goes into Adam, the verse comes, فَقَوْلَهُ سَاجِدِينَ. Everyone bow down to Adam. Why? Because in him is Wilayah of Ahl al-Bayt. All of the angels and the jinn bow down to Adam. Okay, then Adam is born. All of you know this. Adam has a child. His child has another child. This light continues to go through the line of Bani Adam. Among all the people, this light remains hidden inside fathers and sons From one pure womb to another pure womb. From one pure man to another pure man. Until these two anwar, these noors, reach the body of Abdul Muttalib. Now for the first time it splits into two. One half of this noor goes to one child, one goes to the other. One noor goes to Abdullah, one noor goes to Abu Talib. In Abdullah there is born Rasulullah, in Abu Talib is born Imam Ali alayhi salam. But then the noor must come back in one place again. And so the place where the noor from Adam until now unites is in one person, say the Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. In Zahra the noor unites. Do you now see why she is so important? Like Allah says, Fatima. Why? Because it's Fatima who unites this chain. In her, all of history ends at a certain point, where the Anwar are in her. Now from her come the Imamain, Sayyid Shah the Jannah and the Aimah, and they contain both Anwar in them. But it's only because that's why Sayyid comes from her, not from Ali alayhi salam. A Sayyid is a Sayyid because he's the son of Zahra, not the son of Ali. Because of her. Okay. The Quran mentions this point I just said now. Which point? That all of the prophets were passing around the Anwar, the Noor of Muhammad. Where? We saw Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allah tells the prophets. He tells you the prophets. Ask those people who came before you who were prophets. The verse actually reads. Sorry. Ask all those Rasul who came before you, what was their promise to God? Ask yourself. Prophet is born in Arabia. He's been told to ask all of the Anbiya. How can he ask them when he's living in Arabia? Can he what? He's going to go and ask Adam and Sheikh and Noha and Ibrahim, have you followed your prophet, your promise? The narrations tell us, this verse was revealed in honor of one event. Which event? What's the prophet being told? Ask all the prophets were they true to their promise. Rasulullah goes on Mi'raj. One after he goes up and up the levels on the journey towards God. On one of the heavens he sees all of the Anbiya around him. He says to them, did you hold true to your promise to Allah? They ask him, Ya Rasulullah, what's that promise we were meant to do? He says, the promise was, number one, follow Allah. Number two, I am Khadimun Nabi. Number three, I give all of you, you must establish mawaddata fil qurba, love for my family. Do you, from Adam until Isa, promise me, every single one of you will love my family and establish love for my family. They say, yes, Rasul, we will establish for you. We want to show you something. What do you want to show me? They take him to one place in heaven where he sees Ali ibn Abi Talib in Jannah. And he says, Ya Ali, have you reached heaven before me? And they say, Ya Rasul, it's not Ali. There is one angel who looks like Ali. And we love him so much, when we miss Ali, we go to this angel. Why? Have you read the narration? Which narration? An-nadratun aliyun ibadah. Looking at the face of Ali is ibadah, afdalu ibadah. And so we go to this angel to think of Ali ibn Abi Talib. And when we're not there, we think of him. Why? Dhikrun aliyun ibadah, afdalu ibadah. Dhikr of Ali is ibadah. Whenever we hold true to the promise, we go to this one angel of Ali ibn Abi Talib. The Prophet then goes back to this earth. He says, Ya Ali, what do you want? Many Anbiya send salam to you from heaven. Noah sends salam. Ibrahim sends salam for you, Ya Ali. For you are the ones they praise in heaven. Okay. The point I'm making is, from heaven, from beginning until now, all of history has the Ahlul Bayt as part of history. They are more contained within the Anbiya. But Ali Muhammad play a much greater role than just this. Ali Muhammad held all of history. And you can't know history without Ahlul Bayt. How? Give me one narration. This is Ali Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. One day, the Holy Prophet is in the mosque, in the masjid. And he's with his companions. The doors open and a large, frightful, scary being enters into this room. And when the ashab see him, they become scared, they become fearful. Many ashab live their life out of fear. Here comes this one being. And the angels, this being comes in and all the companions are scared. The being calmly comes, sits down in front of the Prophet and says, Ya Rasulullah, I've come to see you, but many of your companions are scared because I look frightful. do you allow me to introduce myself to them? He says, yes, introduce them. Introduce them to all of them. The being says, Ana Ham ibn Him ibn Lamis ibn Iblis. I am Ham, a great grandson of Iblis. I'm a jinn. That's why I look like this. And I have come to ask you a question because you are the prophet and I'm among your people, your jinn. I have a question for you. That's why I'm here. He says, ask your question. What's your question? Ham says, this jinn says, Ya Rasulullah, my great grandfather Iblis gave me one mission. Misguide all of the prophets. That was my mission. So I went to Adam and I tried to misguide him. But when I went to Adam, before I could make him commit a sin, someone stopped me. A frightful being who brought fear in my heart. He stopped me. Ya Rasulullah, I thought, you know what, it must be the next prophet because each prophet protects the prophet before. Okay, so I went to Sheep, the next prophet, and I tried to misguide him. But that same being stopped me from misguiding him as well. Okay, I thought, you know what, it must be the prophet after because each prophet protects. I went to Noha, the same one came. I went to Ibrahim, Ishaq, Yusuf, Yaqub, the same being came and stopped me. And I kept saying it must be the prophet after who's stopping me from causing them to sin. Ya Rasulullah, I went to Isa before you and this being came. And still, for some reason he was misleading, I couldn't misguide him. You are Khatmun Nabiyyin, you are the last prophet. I've come to misguide you, but I don't see that being who stopped me. And I thought it was you, you're the last prophet. So my question is, Ya Rasulullah, who is that being from the beginning until the end? Every time I wish to misguide a prophet, he comes and stops me. The Prophet says, if you see him now, will you recognize him? He says, Ya Rasulullah, all my life I run from this one being. Of course I know him. If I saw now, I will know. Next to the Prophet, they say, Ali is sitting with his head facing down. The Prophet lifts his hand on his chin and the face of Ali is visible. Ham jumps back and says, Ya Rasulullah, I bear witness from Adam until now. The one being, every time I try and misguide the Prophet, he stops me. The one sitting next to you, who is this man that has scared me my whole life? The Prophet says, Hada Ahli, wa ibn Ammi, wa wasi, wa warithi, wa mawdi sirri, Abu al-Hasanayn, Mawla al-Qawnayn, Imam al-Thaqalayn, Yasin. وأمير المؤمنين أسد الله الغالب على كل غالب مثل العجائب علي بن أبي طالب. From the beginning until now, all of history is Ali protecting the Anbiya, one after the other. That's why Ali is famous in every single piece of history. Because we don't look, but he is. Muhammad says, if you wish to know who I am, I'll introduce you to you who I am. All of us do dhikr of Ali in our words. How does Ali do his own dhikr in his own words? He says, I am the one whom the Romans called Vitris. I am the one who the Persians, who the Indians called Kabir. The Ethiopians call Bilqir, who in the Injil is known as Elia, and the Torah is known as Daria, and the Quran is known as the Siddiq al-Uliya. Wherever you look in every book, you'll see my name in their history. Now ask yourself, on the day of Khaybar, when Imam stands and says, I am the one, let me choose myself on that day, he doesn't say who the Romans call him. He doesn't say who the Ethiopians call him. He doesn't say who the Christians or the Jews or the Quran. He says, I am the one whose mother named him Haydar. That's who I am. Anyone who comes near me will find I am like a lion on the battlefield. Antar comes forward, one stroke he's finished. Marham comes forward, one stroke he's finished. Even the door of Khaybar, 30 men could not lift it. Ali lifts with 2 fingers and Haydar.